Okay, now, details. You know, I'm immersed in this stuff. You're completely immersed in this stuff. I read your articles all the time, and we talk about, you know, which general moved from where and what Cheney did and which reporter brought it up a year and a half ago and all these little things. But let's just get this straight in the big picture here. Gareth, help explain to me. TV keeps telling me that Iran is supplying the bombs that are killing our guys in Iraq. True or false?
The bombs that are being used are at least, I would estimate, 99.5% or 99.9% coming from Iraq, Iraq itself. I'm not going to suggest that there's not a single Iranian-made weapon in Iraq. That would be ridiculous. I know that there are some weapons that find their way into Iraq that were made in Iran. But this, of course, is not the same as saying that there's a pipeline of weapons that are coming from the IRGC or from the Iranian government to the Iraqi Shiites. And I've given some specific examples here where we know that the overwhelming majority, not just 55% or 65% or 75% or 85%, but, virtually 100% of particular types of weapons that have been, suggested, that the pro-war people have suggested, are indicative of the Iranian role in Iraq, specifically rockets and mortars, are not Iranian-made rockets and mortars. They are from old Iraqi government stock, primarily with the possibility of a few that were manufactured in China that have found their way into the country. And then, looking at RPGs, the rocket-propelled grenade launchers, I've been working on a story on that, and I can tell you that the percentage of Iranian-made RPGs in the hands of the Shiite militiamen is close to zero. It's close to zero. So, that's the case that I'm making. There are undoubtedly some weapons that have made their way into Iraq, but those are perfectly explainable in terms of the leakage of weapons from storehouses, from individuals, and from weapon storehouses in Iran into the black market. And I can tell you that the arms black market in Iraq is huge, and it involves virtually every major city, and you can buy virtually anything, any weapon system on that black market. And there'll be more about that, I can guarantee you, in the future.
Right, yeah, I'm sure there will be, whether America's still there or not. But so we've been under a relentless assault in the media for a year and a half. Actually, it's funny because I think they kind of paused there for a little while last fall or last summer or something. But basically, for intents and purposes, for a year and a half straight, since Bush's speech in January 2007, they have been pushing hard on this line to make us believe that Iran is waging a proxy war against us, as Joe Lieberman says. What are we waiting for, in the words of the guys on Fox News? How can we sit back and let the Iranians wage war against us in Iraq while we sit and do nothing? They're damn liars, and they know they're damn liars, don't they? I mean the administration, not the Fox News guy.
Can I interrupt
Sure.
to just highlight something you just said, which was that there was a pause last fall. Indeed, there was a pause last fall, and the reason that there was a pause is that the U.S. military and State Department and Defense Department were all sort of examining very carefully whether it wasn't true that Iran was helping to restrain the Mahdi army in its military operation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because the al-Maliki government, of course, was telling them repeatedly and with great emphasis that Iran is not playing a role of trying to destabilize us. Iran is trying to help us by restraining the Mahdi army, trying to restrain Sadr. And they said it was because of Iran that Sadr agreed to the ceasefire of August 27th, 2007, which was immediately very effective. The rockets and mortars that had been hitting the green zone immediately stopped as soon as Sadr said we're imposing a ceasefire, a unilateral ceasefire. And that was taken very seriously by American officials. They understood that Sadr did in fact have control over his forces, and that when he said to stop, they did stop. And therefore, it was being taken very seriously that the Iranians were indeed playing a positive role in helping the United States to keep the level of violence at a minimum.
Right, which that detail as far as keeping solder in check is one thing, but ever since America championed the results of the January 2005 election, and really even the creation of the Constitution before that, but when George Bush held up those purple fingers and said, see, now this is legitimacy, and America decided the policy is, I guess they had no choice, the United Iraqi Alliance, those are our guys, the Skiri and the Dawah Party and the Badr Corps, these are our guys, and that being the case, the Iranians have been helping the American government install the Vichy puppet government of Jafari and then Maliki after him this whole time since January of 2005. It's in their interest to create the exact same government that America is creating here.
Well, let me add one or two details to that point, which I think is a key point that I wish we could somehow drill into the heads of Democratic leaders in Congress. There is one list of weapons which apparently was discovered, a list of weapons that were being provided by Iran to Shi'ite militias. And this was reported in the press, although it somehow slipped into the black hole of memory. That list was a list that was involved in the Badr Corps' relationship to Iran, and it was more or less admitted. It was never denied by the Badr Corps that, yes, they had a list of weapons that were being provided to the Badr Corps by Iran, and it involved sniper rifles and mortars. Yet somehow or other, that piece of information has never become part of the political discourse about U.S. policy toward Iran and Iraq. When Bergner was asked specifically last July in that briefing, what about the Badr Corps? Aren't they getting assistance from Iran? Aren't they getting weapons from Iran? And you know what Bergner's answer was? I have nothing to give you on that. So, the fix, as you, I think, quite well put it, the fix was on in terms of the Badr Corps, which they knew perfectly well was much closer to Iran than the Mahdi army ever was.
Well, I've been getting the truth out of you on this show pretty much every week for a year and a half here, but since 2005, if I could draw cartoons, the cartoon would be me standing talking to a brick wall. I mean, what's the point of any of this when nobody apparently is able to learn, Gareth? I mean, Iran is friends with the Badr Corps. How hard is that?
Yeah. Hello. Is anybody home? I guess is the question. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to go ahead and rather than just complaining without purpose, I want to give a call out here to ABC and CBS and NBC and CNN and Fox, NPR, all the different financial networks. You people are looking for good reporting. Hell, Wall Street Journal, not the editorial page, but the reporting side of the paper, Chicago Tribune, LA Times. Do you need a reporter who can explain to you who's on whose side in Iraq? Do you need a reporter who can explain where these EFPs are actually coming from? His name is Gareth Porter. He's published 10 million articles on all this stuff. Every single fact in every one I've read over the last year and a half stands the test of time. All of them. And it's just unforgivable that right in the middle of this big McClellan scandal, they bring it up again, that we were lied into war, and the media guys are looking at each other saying, who, us? And we're all saying, yeah, you. We know it was you. It's time to get the real reporters on there to tell the real story. And instead, you have to know to go to look at IPS News or know to go to look at AntiWar.com to read Gareth Porter. And it ain't fair. It's time to get this shit straight.
Well, Scott, I'm not going to disagree with anything you said. My thought in general over the last month in surveying the huge gap between what's being reported by news media in the United States, the mainstream media, and what we know is true, is that we are up against a system, of course, that has a great deal of momentum to it, and it's very difficult to beat back the system when it has when it has that momentum going when you're in a war. And my sort of strategic concept about this whole problem is that the only way we're going to get traction, really, is to get ahead of the curve and to begin to prepare, to begin to analyze the nature of the system itself